Welcome to Day 3 of Virtual NAPE in the LIS Micro Webinars. I'm Amy Hopman, Director of Land Processes, and today we are extremely excited about today's topic. Jim Shaw, President and CEO, is going to give you all a sneak peek of the new version of LandVantage 2.0 and how it's evolved. So why do you think this is such a step forward for the land workspace?
So, we've been so excited. We've had such a huge amount of success and encouragement from our clients over the years with our current build, with our 1.0 build, that we're very proud of our extensive experience here in land and land administration. Just on our executive team alone, we've got over 100 years in land and land admin collectively. And so we feel very confident in the way that we designed the initial system and the workflows that we built into it. But we're never too proud to take in feedback from our customers, especially really good ideas, of course. And so what we've done over the last few years or number of years that we've had the system in place, we've gathered that feedback and we've gathered those ideas and those development opportunities. And so what you're going to see in 2.0 is really a culmination of years of work and thought and brainstorming here collectively, internally, and with our clients. And so it really is a land workspace. We're not just a land record system or a document management system or a workflow system. It's an entire land workspace. We've had current recent customers kind of coin that. They've also said, some other customers say we live in LandVantage. I mean, our entire day is spent in LandVantage. We collaborate and communicate there. We don't need to rely on email or some kind of messaging application to get our points across or to delegate tasks. It's all done within the system.
I think collectively having the accounting data there is really important to our clients too.
Absolutely. I mean, the interfaces that we have, obviously we don't do accounting. That's one thing that we certainly don't do. But we've interfaced with every accounting system on the market. And pulling that information in, to your point, it's a huge value add for our customers because the land group and the back office, they don't need to then jump around to other systems to get the information they need for their day-to-day.
Yeah. It's value add for the accountants too, because then they're not having to answer questions all day by landmen.
And run reports all day, yes.
So what do you think land software can do for an organization?
Well, it should bring structure and organization to that team and to the company as a whole. What you're doing is with this land workspace, you're providing transparency across your team, which can be kind of a humbling experience at times because you might have some opportunities to improve in certain areas and you're going to see those very quickly. But overall, it gives you better confidence in your data. It's so much easier to get information into the system, and we've got so many controls and quality assurance measures throughout the application that your data is going to be a lot cleaner. Your reports are going to be more accurate. The decisions that you're able to make are much quicker and more accurate. So from the top down, your organization is really going to want to adopt this system in a very fast, way.
Yeah. And we kind of touched on this yesterday with outsourcing, but what do you think about the size of the company for LandVantage?
We, in our current portfolio and the companies that we're targeting, there's no limit in terms of the size. These can be all the way from very small organizations to very large and well-established companies as well. And the system has such a unique set of functionality that it really caters to anybody in the spectrum.
And so as far as divestitures go and the VDRs, how is the best way for us to use that for companies?
And that's such a huge topic right now with, the current environment and all of the consolidation and asset sales that you're seeing. The system itself is so intuitive and easy to use, but from a VDR standpoint, you really do have an instant VDR in your hands where you can control third-party access all the way down to the asset that you want to spin off. You can easily spin up another instance if you need to and have a separate, just pure VDR application that's there to support that transaction. But you've got the data and documents at the fingertips of those that need to review it and make decisions on that transaction.
Yeah, I think that's been a real value add for some of our companies who've been divesting assets, that pretty package.
Yeah.
So what is the most exciting part of the process for you?
So the most exciting part, we talked a lot yesterday about kind of the servant attitude that we have here within our organization and how we serve our customers. The exciting thing for me is to see all of these ideas come to fruition and really create significant value for our customers. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
We need to be delivering value to our customers, something that they either couldn't achieve on their own, needed a partner, some way where we're providing a service that they're going to get a return on their investment. That's what's most rewarding and exciting for me.
I know last year we were doing a lot of demos. We were on the road a lot, and then 2020 happened. 2020 happened. So our demos have been a little bit different, but I remember the first time we got to do the LV2 demo. That was really exciting.
That was very, very exciting. We earlier this year, when we kind of announced that 2.0 was coming to fruition, we had rented out a huge theater here in town in Oklahoma City, and we were inviting everybody, obviously local here in Oklahoma City, but all around the country where we've got clients and friends and colleagues to come to town and see this huge event, this launch party. And we had to kind of adjust and adapt to the environment that we're in. And that goes for our overall business and our outreach. We obviously have never been immune to demos online and WebExes, but we always want to be in person and face-to-face with people. You can never replace that kind of interaction. But it's shocking the number of clients that we've signed up over the last 6 months where I've never seen them face-to-face. And I thought we would never, ever be in that situation. But it's been an eye-opening experience.
Yes, absolutely. Well, do you want to get started on the demo?
Yeah, so we're getting ready to jump into an actual screen share here of LandVantage 2.0. For those of you that are watching now live or maybe later on the recorded version, just a little bit of a disclaimer, this is not going to be extremely in-depth. We want to make sure that you get a high-level overview of what it looks like, what it's capable of. And then if you want to know more, if you want a full-blown demo, please contact us through our e-booth at our info page on lislv.com, and we'd love to schedule another time to talk to you all. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into the demo. So what you're looking at here on the screen right now is the dashboard. So this is your landing page when you first log into the system. You get a real-time look of all the tasks that are pending and in progress, maybe those that you're following. You can post announcements here. This becomes like your Land team site.
Really
so your entire team is here collaborating and communicating with one another. You get some activity bars here on recent activity within each module throughout the system. I can post certain documents, procedure documents, acreage reports, things of that nature on the right-hand side. I'm going to skip over the middle real quick. Down below, we've got a basic calendar view of upcoming obligations and expirations, just as a kind of a fingertip look. We actually route those electronically through our request process, and we'll show you that here in just a little bit. But the big differentiator for us that you're going to hear us talk about over and over today and in future conversations is our workflows. So the entire end-to-end land workspace really encompasses a lot of different activities and a lot of different types of workflows that you need to collaborate on internally with land and land admin, but also maybe accounting, geology, operations, reservoir engineering. But when we talk about land from an end-to-end process, anything that you can think of is going to be here within this system. You could be bringing in a new deal from a broker. You could be routing a NonOp AFV for review and approval. Maybe a well has gone down and you need to collaborate with operations and lease records on how to perpetuate those leases. Maybe there's a division order that's come in that you're needing to process and review, approve, send back to the operator and start monitoring for revenue coming in. And then obviously the ECalendar process for obligations and expirations, which surprisingly people are still challenged with physical printouts and walking it down the hall, and maybe we're not in that hallway again right now together in person, and so we really need a paperless process, and that's what we've been doing for many years now, and it's improved even more in 2.0. So I'm going to jump through certain modules here within the system. You can see on the left hand side we've got agreements, which is all of your leases and contracts and deeds, etc. Units is really kind of a tract of land. For reporting purposes, it aggregates everything together. Wells, owners, which are going to again be coming in through the interface from the accounting system. Requests is that underlying workflow component to the entire system that we've talked about. This is a document management platform as well. So we've got a module entirely for documents where you can do some robust queries and searches for documents across the entire platform. And then, of course, what land system doesn't have a good GIS mapping component to it? But I assure you, no other system has the auto mapper that we have sitting underneath it and the accuracy that we can auto map leases and wells and contracts for you. So let's jump into the agreement search screen here so we can take a look at that. So what you're seeing here is the search screen. I've got a lot of options on what I can search on. I can tag certain things as favorites that maybe I search on over and over and over up at the top. But I can easily expand, some header level attributes that I want to search on, maybe some tract level attributes like map references. Maybe I want to know, give me all of the leases that are in a particular section that have certain provisions tagged on them, like an option to extend or a consent to assign. All of those combinations are possible here, searching by cross-referenced entities as well. But I can also star or flag certain searches as favorites.
I think that's going to be a big value for our clients.
It really is. I mean, how often do you jump into the system and you search by the same thing over and over and over? Well, now I can just with a one-click search and get down to a list of agreements that fit that criteria, and I can easily move on. So before we do move on and jump into an actual lease record, it's important to point out here in the search screens, we've got exports to Excel that are not only they're simple, but they're comprehensive. A lot of systems tend to overcomplicate the reporting. It's difficult to get information out of the system. You maybe find some inconsistencies throughout those reports, and there's so many to choose from. There's redundancies. So we keep it very simple, but you get all the information that you need to make a quick and informed decision. And then obviously you can interface with other reporting engines if you like.
It's so rewarding when land managers say, I ran my own reports.
Yes. Yeah. I remember one of our clients a few years ago that signed up, the VP of land, who admitted early on he had never really used the land system before purposefully because it was, a little too intimidating and he didn't like to get into it. Very first day he's in running his own acreage reports and taking them to management meetings. That was a very rewarding experience. So let's jump into an individual lease record so we can see what that looks like. And so when the screen comes up here, we're going to see that, we've got our typical header type information, party 1 and party 2, the type of instrument, the rights owned. But kind of a neat feature here is I see that there's a couple of other folks that are viewing this record alongside me. So how often do you hear of people getting into the same record and stepping on each other's toes? That doesn't happen here. I can easily lock this record or unlock it rather for editing, and the other folks can't get into it. But it's also nice to see what type of activity has occurred on this agreement recently. What's happened? What process has it been involved with? I can very easily see that this originated as a lead coming in from a broker. It was a new deal, a new lease that needed to be reviewed and approved from the broker. Broker actually entered it directly into the system, and it flowed through this approval process here. And I have history of that. I've got commentary through the remarks here of the dialogue between my team and the broker's team. So at a very quick look, I see how this lead or this lease originated. And then I can further see how did the overall agreement get approved in the system, because that's really a separate process with lease records. So you have your lease analyst coming in and completing out that record and moving that through a separate approval process. So I can very quickly see these processes embedded at the record level to see what's occurred. So again, we've got our header information here, which is very common. And then down below, we've got our tracks. And throughout the system, you're going to see some color schemes that really start to train the user's eyes onto what that means. And really, it lends to, again, the efficiency. We've talked about, even in our previous 1.0 version, it's always been at least 5 times faster to get information into the system. We're now testing at rates of around 10 times faster compared to most other systems. So just certain things here and there that really lend to that efficiency. And so we've got, the lease record here. and we've got the tract that we can pull open to see kind of some of that additional data capture at the tract level with the map references and everything that's very common.
The formations is really important
Formation,
reporting too.
that is a big deal. It can be so complicated sometimes to report by depth, and it's very, very simple and doesn't really need to be that hard. Provisions is a big thing. So, a lot of systems, you've got to input a provision and an obligation and a payment obligation in 3 different screens. Doesn't need to be that way.
It doesn't.
It's really a provision, and if you annotate it correctly with a date and or payment amount, then it's going to drive it to the ECalendar process within LandVantage that it belongs to. And if it's a recurring payment obligation, I'm going to even see those requests here, so I can very quickly reference back who said to actually pay this payment obligation.
You're not hunting
I would
for
have
the
never
paper.
said that. I did say, yeah, I'm not hunting for the paper, exactly. So I can very quickly see the provisions and the payees behind each of those payment obligations. All of the data here is very intuitively laid out. So there's other data capture here on the lease record, the documents and the comments and the dates. Obviously the cross references. You can relate anything to anything in the system, and so the overall structure of this form is really a big deal in the efficiency of getting a new lease set up.
I think it's also important to mention it's not just for leases. I mean, we
Yeah.
manage a lot of minerals and overrides and MPRIs within LandVantage too.
Correct. And then obviously all of your material contracts and your DPUs and JOAs and assignments, those are all set up as well. So let's go into the well record and look at some of the well data. And so what you're seeing here is really the kind of typical well header data. We're not a downhole master data management program. There's other applications out there that do that. So oftentimes we're interfacing with those applications to refresh the status and whatnot. So
It's important to mention, though, we have a lot of well attributes on there, a lot more than your traditional accounting-led systems.
that's correct. That is correct. So for those companies that don't have a robust well master, then that accounting system often serves as that dual purpose. But from a land standpoint, they don't get as many attributes to search and query on like they would prefer. And one of those could be an actual status that's designated just for land. So aside from the actual operational status, maybe land should have a status where they're monitoring when the elections are complete or what their election response was, or was this some type of data trade situation. So it really gives them the opportunity to improve their reporting from land standpoint while not compromising the current operational status of the well.
That has been really popular, the substatus.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of other well header data here that's going to be extremely valuable. Wells have tracks. Something that we also address are allocation factors. For those of you that have wells that are in cross-section areas or shared unit areas, you can indicate the allocation percentage, and will actually contribute to the out-of-the-box computations that we do here on the well record. So if I go to the interest tab, this is a really, really great feature that all of our customers are taking advantage of. And so the system will automatically compute your working net revenue, override, royalty interest for every lease tract within that well, based on the cross-references and the allocation factors and the spacing of the well, summarizing it by your internal entities, and then giving land a workspace to really designate what's that preliminary DOI look like, what's my initial recap say that we own.
That lease track computed interest makes verifying DOs really simple.
Yeah, it really does. So as soon as that division order comes in the door, I can very quickly see what my leases or deeds are calculating out to, and I can cut that review process time down significantly. Okay. We've got an entire exchange portal here to help distribute reports to your partners, production reports, drilling reports, what have you. That's an entire process that we handle here as well. The view of the accounting DOI is the big win that you talked about earlier. So, the landman or lease analyst, maybe they need to see that current JIB and revenue deck from the accounting system. no problem. We're pulling it in here so they can not only see it, but easily export it. And so they can run their own reports at their own frequency, no more relying on somebody else to do that for them. Something else that's been popular from a long time ago is our NonOp AFV routing.
Yeah.
We have a lot of pure non-op only companies, or at minimum, operators that have a significant non-op position as well. And so, managing the influx of those AFVs coming in the door can be a bit overwhelming, and routing them to the people that need to weigh in on them, especially now that you've got staff in different locations. And some of our customers have always had staff in different parts of the country. And so this really allows them that flexibility to route those.
There's also a historical AFV report that we have that's also very handy.
Yeah, so you can easily take a look back and see what the trends have been from an exposure standpoint, by operator, by
location,
area. Yeah. And so once you kind of set up the well and initiate that AFV, I can very quickly see kind of where this is at in the process. Who's currently holding it up? Is it somebody in land or ops or what have you?
It's transparency.
It is transparency. It's a great and frustrating thing sometimes for some folks. Okay. Let's move on to an owner record.
Okay.
So we've talked about owner relations and some of our services whenever we talked about that yesterday. So we actually use this as a CRM tool for our owner relations practice.
Absolutely.
And a lot of our customers are doing it on their own as well. And so again, we're pulling in all of that owner detail from the accounting system. So now if that owner calls in and has a question, whether it's our agents or your agents, we can immediately validate them over the phone within just a couple of seconds, a couple of questions. We see their owner, header information. We see their current address, or maybe multiple addresses, all of the wells in which they have an interest in, all of the leases that they're tied to, their revenue payment history. I mean, we've got so much information here to resolve that inquiry and or push it on to somebody else if that inquiry is resulting in some type of action.
And having all those data elements, I think we're at like an 85 to 90% closeout rate without having to escalate it to land or accounting. So
yeah,
fingertips.
When somebody calls in and has a question, you should be able to have the access to that information so you can close it out. You shouldn't have to, take a service or an outsourcing service that's really just taking a call and logging in and routing it to you. You should be able to free yourself of some of that burden, the majority of that burden. Okay. So again, we're keeping this a little high level. So if you want more information, again, contact us and we'll dig a little bit deeper in a longer session with you and your team. But now we're going to get into some of the requests and some of the workflows, which are really exciting, and what all of our customers have really enjoyed and has really been such a selling point with potential customers as well. We talk about this land workspace, living in LandVantage. What that means is we've come from prior, experience in our prior lives and other companies, and you always had your land system, and then you had 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 other systems to go and do your daily work. Routing the AFV, weighing in on an ECalendar, looking at all these other, things that you need to make decisions on. We've got everything under one roof, under one platform here, and so it really brings everybody together. Let's go ahead and switch over here to that AFV process that we talked about just a minute ago. So the common thing that you're going to see in the request module is everything has kind of a parent overall process that's controlling, the high level, objective, and then down below you're going to see different actions. So an AFV might have a certain number of people and different disciplines that need to weigh in on this process. It could be land, accounting, finance, geo, operations. As many or as few people that need to weigh in on this process, they can easily do that. So these are actions, but each of these actions have their own process. Because tasks, yeah. I mean, how often, from a land standpoint, it's like, well, I would like somebody else to look at it before I see it. So you can define those handoffs either very intentionally and say, I always want it to go from Jim to Amy, Or you can rely on the team table and the roles that you set up within the team table to route automatically based on somebody's role. Or you can toss in the AFV, authority limits. So if
I think the flexibility for 2.0 is really one of the big strong points.
Yeah, so our workflows we've always been very proud of, but in 2.0 with the new, technology and improvements that we've done on the workflow side, there is a huge amount of customization that our customers have, where everybody's business is a little bit different. They attack it from a different viewpoint. Well, now they have the ability to really customize how they want those workflows to work. So here we're looking at down well.
Big topic these days.
Talk about a popular workflow that people have either really struggled with in the past, or it's kind of been this back burner thing that's really never really been addressed. So in today's environment, obviously, but at any point in time, if you have a well that goes down, that's such a critical thing that really needs some attention from, at minimum, land needs to be notified about it. So they need to receive notification that event has happened. They need all of the information around that event, what wells and what leases and critical provisions for those leases are affected. And then we need a space to collaborate and make a decision. So all three of those things are addressed here within this workflow. This is a unit that has 4 wells, it looks like, that have gone down. We've got all of the relevant data that we need to make a decision, the well data, the lease data. And then, a little bit further down, we've got the actual tasks that we've talked about. Maybe we're asking operations to step in and they've decided, we need to do something, on the well. Or maybe operations says, we need to look at what our options are with shut-ins. Yeah. And then lease records comes into play, right?
And it's very time consuming for lease records on a normal basis. Pulling all the leases, reviewing all the provisions for shut-ins, cessation, everything.
Yeah, just making sure that
time saving.
That nothing's overlooked. Mm-hmm. How often, that lease analyst is trying to pull in all this information, but they may have forgotten there was another well over here that affected another lease, and so the system automatically does this for you. It's a huge time saver. ECalendar. We talked about the handing off, physical papers for weighing in on a payment obligation or an expiration. Can you describe a little bit about how our ECalendar process works?
Yeah, so at the first of every month, the system will automatically kind of spool up all of your payment obligations, general obligations, and expirations for the month. And it really lends to a really collaborative space for lease records to go in and review, make sure everything's set up correctly before they pass it off to the landman. So landmen are very busy, as we all are, but it really saves a lot of time for them. They can do mass approvals. You can do mass delegations to the landman. We kind of organize it by unit. So generally you're going to have a bunch of options in one unit. So yes, I want to pay these. These are on our drill schedule. It can be done in minutes.
Yep.
So the collaboration is really a nice thing there. And it's also these recommendations attached, just like Jim mentioned on the provisions. They are always connected to those provisions. You're always going to have that history of what those recommendations were. So that's a lot of value too.
Yeah, again, each of these obligations have their own little mini process that they can, go through a particular flow. And you have all the historical, decisions and collaboration there forever for everybody to
and kind of like on the tracks too, we added different layers so you can see pretty much all of the wells that are cross-referenced, additional images, all the dates. It's really everything's at your fingertip.
Yeah.
And it's mobile friendly.
It is mobile friendly, and so, a lot of the times people that have the final decision, in this process, they're maybe at a management or an executive level, and they're on the go a lot, or they're not at their desk. So it is mobile friendly. You get instant notifications from the system as soon as something is delegated to you, or maybe I'm not a part of the decision-making process, but I'm invested in the outcome of that process, and I want to be made aware when something changes, when it starts to advance or when it closes out. I can get alerts from that by following that particular process. So, there's daily email alerts, but then the instant notifications are a huge advance in the new 2.0 version.
I'm kind of mentioning how we talked about we can integrate with any accounting system. These payment obligations can be integrated with your accounting system and go directly there for your checks to be printed, or we can do manual check requests. We're flexible for whatever we need.
Yep. we're going to touch on one more workflow here. And this is the division order process. This is something that most people are involved with, they're familiar with, and it affects their business. So when you get those division orders back, or when you get a division order from an operator, you need to log it. You need to have somebody review it and approve the decimals on that division order. You got to send it back to the operator indicating that you accept.
It's not sitting on someone's desk.
Yes, it's not sitting on somebody's desk. They actually need to know that that you've approved those decimals, and then you need to monitor when you get paid. That's the biggest thing. And so we've developed a really good process here for documenting all of the steps along the way, from the division order coming in, approved, going out, monitoring when you get revenue in the door, into one big process, and you can involve everybody across the team.
There's also a stall there if you've got discrepancies, which is going to be really handy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not always cut and dry. It doesn't always match up or line up.
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world, in the not so perfect world, you often do have to collaborate with the operator and figure out why you're showing a discrepancy, and you have that ability to indicate that it's stalled out for that reason. So this is a huge process for our non-op companies, of course, and our mineral companies alike. Yeah.
This is also another place where I think that follow would be really good. So if you had a big deal that you're waiting to get paid on, finance wants to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, especially somebody in accounting.
Yeah.
They're always wanting to make sure that when's the revenue coming in? Let's check the account and see if we're getting paid on this really big well or this really big deal. Accounting, the accountants can have access into the system, and view these processes and view the overall progress throughout that deal. So that's most of what we wanted to cover, just from, again, a high-level overview of 2.0. I hope you kind of understand, get a better feel for how the system's laid out. For those current customers, you've probably seen this already to some extent, and for anybody else out there that's interested, we would love to talk to you about a little bit more. But do we have some other things that we need to
absolutely. We've got a
cover?
giveaway today. We are giving away some wireless earbuds, and it's Tim Beams. It's BEIMS, if I pronounced that correctly. So we'll get in touch with you, get that to you.
Very good.
And so I think tomorrow you and Joel are going to touch on the kind of IT side of things.
We are. We're going to get a little more technical tomorrow, and that's where Joel comes in and talks a lot more than I do. But yeah, we're really going to kind of give a little bit of history behind 1.0, the inspiration there, and then what's driven the creativity behind 2.0. What was our overall thought process of creating this pivotal moment in terms of our business and our software product development. So that's going to be an exciting discussion tomorrow. So
bring your IT team.
Bring your IT team. That's another thing. When we talk to organizations, oftentimes the IT group is maybe not part of the conversation. They absolutely should be. Yeah, they need to be. So get your IT manager or director and have them tune in tomorrow so we can have a good conversation around the technical side of LandVantage and what all that entails.
So tomorrow is at 10 a.m. All right, we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, thank you all so much again for your time. This has been such a great week, a fun week. Tune in tomorrow, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.